Is this on? Can everyone hear me? Okay, I've never presented in 15 minutes, so they said I've got the upgrade, so I've got 18 minutes because they did the thank yous. I caved in on the thank yous to get the additional 3 minutes. So I'm going to try and do this as quick as I possibly can. The premise of my presentation today is to talk about ambient awareness, and I want to talk about it within the context of cities. I think there's an opportunity right now for us to do some very quick, simple things because technology has caught up to our vision, technology has caught up to what we think we can do theoretically. And I'm not, when I speak about things today, I don't want to, everyone's going to think I'm talking about government 2.0. I'm not. I'm speaking about sensory-aware blanketing of cities. I think we can take things and objects in cities and make them sensory-aware. And when you do that and you open up the interfaces, government can sit back and just watch us innovate around it. So the way I want to approach this is very, very simple. I want to take you through the generic trends, what I see happening on the outside. Then I want to kind of melt it back into the city thing. And I was laying 2 o'clock this morning, and it finally hit me exactly what I wanted to say today. And I wrote it in an email, and I copy and pasted it in the last slide of this presentation. So I'm going to try and read it verbosely. This is what's going on the internet. This is astonishing. When I was at Google, we used to brag about 8 hours of video getting published up into YouTube every minute of every day. Take a look at it now. It's 48 hours of video gets published into YouTube every minute of every day. What we see happening with the mobile device is astonishing. Mobile devices are changing. They're no longer mobile phones. Stop calling them phones. Right? I used to say, stop calling them phones, call them mobile devices. I changed this year. You know what I call them now? Peripheral sensory rendering devices or platforms. And what do I mean by that is phones have extraordinarily sensory capability. And my engineers that work for me, my devs, I keep going back to them saying, your code's wrong because your code is not fully exploiting the platform. It is astonishing what these devices in your hands can do now. And it's astonishing how we can correlate that data and we can come up with some crazy intelligence that makes for some interesting ambient data. So take a look at this tweets, 2,500 tweets a second, 18,000 queries per second, 1.6 billion queries a day. Okay, it's crazy. I mean, Google's worried about these guys at the moment. Why? Because social graphing is taking over from generic search. When I go to New York now and I land, I don't go to Google and say, pizza in Manhattan. I go into my social graph, I go into Facebook, I go into Twitter, and I tell my friends, the resultant that comes back is generally a better resultant. Why? Because it's my social graph. People know me. They know what I'm about. So social graphs seem to give us better search results because there's human involvement. It's not necessarily this page rank AI engine that prioritizes data. And this is a worry. I mean, when the plane landed in the Hudson River, where was that data first? It was in Twitter, right? You couldn't search it on Google. It was in TwitPic, it was in Twit videos, etc., etc. If you take a look at this, Google launched Google+, and they reckon this will be one of the fastest services ever in history to reach 100 million users. Look, Facebook took 1,100 and something days, Twitter just over 1,000 days. Google+ is forecasted to do that just in a few days. That is astonishing. And what this says is the network's becoming social. People like to interact. People like to mesh up social graphs. People like to get together. Because what they have in their hands now are major computing platforms. It's stuff that can really be exploited. If you take a look at the iPhone that you have today, I used to say this about the iPhone 3GS. The iPhone 3GS had the same computational power that a PC had approximately 3 to 5 years backwards. An iPhone 4, put it next to your laptop. Put it next to your tower computer and watch. You can see it's quickly catching up. The chipsets, the memory, the rendering capability, the high-def cameras, the high-def video. It is astonishing what we now have in our hands. And I want to talk about how that relates to cities in a second. Okay, let's go through this. Take a look at Apple. Just in terms of applications. The reason I'm sharing all these stats is to show you what's happening outside the firewalls, what's happening, what you folks are doing, and what does this mean? What does this mean, and what can governments learn from this, and what can cities learn from this, and how does it correlate? So take a look at this. We've got songs downloaded, right? 15 billion apps has just caught up, and it's surpassing songs now. It's astonishing. 15 billion. Apple's hit 2 billions that I think is astonishing. 15 billion apps, 15 billion iTunes. But take a look at the timing. Songs downloaded. See how quick it's caught up. That's when it was launched, songs. That's when apps were launched, and look where it is. It's caught up already. These hockey stick graphs, we don't fully understand, but we understand it's because something's happening on the outside. Remember this. Watch smiley face, smiley face, smiley face, and then you went home and this happened. Okay, so we're changing from this model of computing. This is the model where I own stuff. And we're changing, and Kevin Kelly has just gone big on this the other day, and I like Kevin Kelly, and I like what he says. We're changing from ownership to access. Everything that you're doing right now is less about ownership. You don't like to buy DVDs and songs and own them anymore. What do you like to do with them? You like to go to Spotify and subscribe to them. You don't like to own hard drives and storage spaces and disks and arrays. You go to Dropbox. Right? We're moving to this culture of access and less about ownership. So more and more stuff's being pumped up into this virtual, what we call a cloud. I just hate that word. We need to get a different name for it. I hate cloud. Okay, I've got this paper that I wrote about cloud in your hand. But we're changing from ownership to access. What does this mean for cities? I'll keep asking the question, I'll nail it towards the end. Take a look at it. We used to have PCs, file, folders, desktops. Then the web came along. It was no longer file, it was a page on the web. It no longer folder, it became a link. No more desktop, it became the web. Now we're in this real-time world. Everything is real-time. Right? Streaming, tagging, clouding. We want things instantaneously. We want Netflix movies. We want our songs. We want things when we want them. Right? My 7-year-old kid. Okay, I'll get to my 7-year-old kid in a second. Okay, take a look at this. Pages became streams, species became cloud, today became now, me became we, and items became data. This is very powerful within the context of cities. Because when you start making things sensory aware in this real-time framework, in this real-time architecture, it is astonishing what a city will start telling you. It is astonishing what type of data you start capturing around a city and how valuable that data becomes. These are things, access to rentals, Netflix, Spotify. But here's some offline stuff, zip cars. People don't own cars in the United States, some people. They own zip cars, they rent cars. Right, you land in a city, you got a little token, it opens up the car, keys, you drive off, you park it again, and someone else can get it. We're moving to more of a rental-oriented, a virtual orientation of services associated with ownership. This is what I love, right? Mark and Jason said this on stage. These are the people that we have to cater for and we have to worry about. My friend's 3-year-old walked up to the TV, swiped, nothing happened, and said, "Dad, what's wrong with the TV?" Right, Kevin Kelly on stage the other night said, you know what he said? He said a toddler, he watched the toddler crawl up to a table, look at a photograph on the table and do this to it. Right, their experiences are changing. The way they consume media is very, very different. They want it's an immersive experience, and computing has caught up to where they are. Give a kid an iPad, right? There's no longer this notion of having a mouse biting your tongue and watching, like, where the hell is the mouse on the screen? Remember when you got a mouse the first time? Oh, wait a minute, these people are all young. They don't know what I'm talking about. Well, that's what we used to do, you think? Okay? They have a very immersive experience, and their understanding of media, their understanding of governmental services is going to put more and more pressure on governments. It's going to put more and more pressure on cities because these people want things real, quickly. My 7-year-old kid stands in front of an LED television that I put in their room. I thought it was a great thing. They never switch it on. Why? She went the first time I put it in, installed it. The next morning, she's hitting the remote. I said, "Amber, what are you doing?" She says, "Dad, I want to see dolphins." I said, "Amber, there's no dolphins on the TV right now." She said, "Dad, make there be dolphins." Right? When she's on her iPad, when she's on a Mac, she gets what she wants at that moment. And it's all instantaneous. It's all in the moment. And this is the culture that's being derived on the outside. And this is going to put huge pressure on governments from a government service delivery perspective. But I'm here to say something. I'm working with a company right now that's the second largest furniture manufacturer in the world. We approached them with the following strategy. We called it an ambient awareness strategy. And I'm quickly going to unpack an ambient awareness architecture stack for you. And I think this is the way an intelligent city needs to be architected. We went in and said, Mr. Company X, okay, we're doing a, I'm not going to mention the company's name. But we went in and we said, guys, you're making sofas, you're making fridges, you're making couches, you're making pot plants, etc. Why don't we start injecting intelligence into your objects? When I say that, I mean, why don't we make your objects communicable? Give us the ability to communicate with them, right? I want a pot plant that can tweet when it needs water, right? I want the ability to look into my fridge. Just think for a second. A very simple example. If cities woke up to the following, why don't we give people the ability to look inside their fridges? Put a little fogless lamp, webcam inside of a fridge, and allow a mobile app while someone's shopping to go, do you know what, do I have that or don't I? And go, yes, oh, I see it's in there. You know what effect that will have on wastage, right? And it's amazing technology when you start exposing technology to people and you start showing people what the effect of their behavior is, how it changes their behavior. Right? When you drive and you see 60 km an hour and you see underneath a little radar thing showing you you're doing 80, what happens? You slow down. Immediately. Why? We're showing you what the consequences of your actions are. We're showing you what you're doing. And if you start embedding this in more and more services. Now, the gentleman that spoke before me about governments, I'd love to sit down and create a taxonomy for ambient awareness and intelligence injection into cities, in all objects. And it's not about cities. Now, take a look at this company. We inject intelligence. then on top of the intelligence, you can't just do that and leave it alone. You put on top of it a common communications layer. A common open communications layer, and a common meta-tagging scheme, and a common taxonomy. This is what I call a communications platform, or layering on top of intelligence objects. When it is open, we can then start writing third-party applications that can interrogate those things. So when I look into my fridge, I see Warren has chops, he has Vors, I've got beer, let's get together, and let's have a party. Right? So what you're doing is there's a communications layer over these intelligent devices, so we can communicate. That's the social aspect. Then you put gamification on top of it. That says, hey Warren, your efficiency of purchasing relative to your wastage is really high based upon your neighborhood, based upon the area that you live in, etc., etc. You give people insight, their behavior patterns changes. This is what cities can do. This is what I want cities to do. The whole notion of government 2.0 has lots of challenges, but lots of opportunities. Why? Open up. Right? It's now architectures of participation. Government, you cannot keep up. So open up your API sets, open up your data sets, and allow us to create app stores with our application services to develop inside of them. Right? That's the whole notion here. Why? Because we want to build things that is completely immersive. We want ecosystems of immersion. That's what government's responsibility is. It's not to deliver services, create ecosystems of immersion. Expose the data, the GIS information, make every traffic light taggable, accessible. Make every bus that moves around interesting. You know, there's an app called CabSense. Let me show you. Remember I said we're moving from mobile phone, mobile device to sensory peripheral rendering engine? When you do a Google map search on your phone, have you noticed any execution happening on your phone? No. You say, I want to go from here to here. What happens? Input, cloud, what comes back? A beautiful render on your phone. We're seeing application sets and services that leverage this. Example, an app called CabSense in the United States. You launch CabSense in San Francisco or in New York. You know what that app is? Written by private guys that are accessing the published API for the live transit feed in those cities. Now you tell the phone, I want to go from here to here. The phone says, where's your destination? I want to go to Warren's house. Changes your UI to green. As you move, it tells you where to go stand to get a cab in the quickest amount of time. Goes red, 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 red. And because there's an accelerometer in the phone, because there's an oscillation capability in the phone, when you do this, it whistles. Hails the cab for you. Right? Sensory-aware application sets. The phone knows where it is. People have written applications. Google Goggles. You point Google Goggles at the Eiffel Tower, and it takes over the camera lens, and it looks at the Eiffel Tower, and it renders it on the phone. You point it at somebody, and you point it at me, pictures of Barack Obama pop up. So the phone can see. You put Google Voice in it. Google Voice understands. The phone moves. You say, hello, Bryanston Pizza. And you look at your phone, and there's the result your phone can hear. Your phone knows where it is. It knows speed. It knows location. It can see. It can hear. These are very, very powerful platforms. Now imagine you start wrapping social frameworks around that and governmental services within cities around that. You start creating sensory blankets. And it's not about government building apps. It's about us building it for them again. So let's government. My message, and I brought a guest here, Warren Hero. He does e-government in South Africa. Make everything hackable. We want to be able to hack everything. We want to gain access to it. Right? When I say hackable, it's not in the bad sense, although I like the bad guys too. It's not in the bad sense, but we want access. We want the APIs. We want the interfaces because we want to build stuff. And we're better at building stuff. Right? What did a woman do in the United States? Her kid got sexually abused. She went to the federal database that has all the addresses, permanent addresses of sexual offenders, that is publicly accessible, and it's all these reams and reams of data. You know what she did? She wrapped GeoRSS, Google Maps API, its SDK, all around that data, geotagged everything, made it dynamic. Now, you take an iPhone, you load an app, you point it at a school, it knows where it is, you look at your phone again, and there's a Google map showing you all sex offenders in a 10-kilometer radius. Written by a citizen, not government. Right? A kid interrogating the wireframe database of municipal buildings in San Francisco. Guys show up, firefighters show up at a building, it's burning, they can't evacuate anyone because they don't have the schematics printed out, people don't have it. Guy launches it on his phone, points it at the building, phone knows where it is, renders the wireframe, touch sensitive, they know how to evacuate the people. 13-year-old wrote that, saving lives. It's not about government writing stuff, it's about us writing stuff. There's some examples of this, so I don't have time, but if you go take a look at Runkeeper, you know, it's interesting, Runkeeper and Quantified Self. Quantified Self, I noticed there's a chapter in, a very dormant chapter in Cape Town, actually. Quantified Self, you know what this is? This is people capturing their behavior, and every attribute of who they are into a common system and then sharing it and comparing it. And seeing, is there any correlations? How many hours do I sleep? How many times do I get sick? What's my transportation route? Where do I go? They're capturing every aspect and every attribute of their identity. They're correlating that into a single social container, and it's very interesting to see the results coming back. We are going to be forced to share. We are on a sharing a framework as far as the web's concerned. It's not going to go away. I love this. I'm just going to stop, jump over this, and jump over there, and jump over there, because I don't have time. This is a key thing, leadership. We're going to have to display leadership. Leadership is very, very important. And I love the way Wiki defines leadership. It's initiating change. It makes for substantial improvement rather than managing change. Warren Hero, South African government, we are not interested in doing what the United States has done. I think there's great best practices. They've done data.gov. Why don't we have a common framework for exposing all our APIs and all our data sets that are government? It's our data, it's not yours. We want access to it. Data.gov. They've got code for America. I'm proposing today that we do code for Africa. I'd like to give developers, engineers, the opportunity to give a year of their life to come and code and build citizen services using exposed governmental data. I think those two initiatives we could launch in this country because I think we can move quicker. We can do things better because we don't have legacy. I'm not going to talk about this. I just love this. That's government, that's us. I guess people want to self-accelerate. This is the architecture, just back to it. Embed intelligence. Meta comms and APIs, create a social layer, and then gamify. I wish government would do this. Don't just give us your data, make every object accessible, and then layer it with that, and watch what we'll do with it. Now, Zuckerberg said this on stage, and I really respect what he said on stage with Tim O'Reilly. He said, it's amazing how powerful something becomes when you make it social. Take anything, right? Your electronic patient health record, when it's static and it's alone and you can access it digitally, that's okay. But you start correlating that data socially in a container, it's exponentially valuable, right? He said two things that really resonated with me. He said, you know what, you make things more social, they exponentially increase in value. And he also said, when you make things that people love, it's amazing what they'll allow you to get away with. Governments, cities. Okay, smart cars. If we don't do this, how are we going to have driverless cars? Google launched a driverless car. In Nevada, there's policy that accepts driverless cars, legislation that accepts driverless cars. But the problem that we have is this car speaks something. It has to detect something. It has to detect objects. It needs to know what a stop street looks like. It needs to know what a traffic light looks like. We need to have a common taxonomy. We need to have a single language so we can enable these services. Driverless cars are not far off in the future. In the future, I believe when you see someone's hands on the steering wheel, you'll go, that's really unsafe. That is what's going to happen. Okay, I'm going to skip over these. This is a cool slide, though. I did this like Magic Quadrant slide, people that you want to be like, people that you want to like kind of be like but can't be. Those you stay away from, and these are people you don't ever want to be like. And then I said, those are the three companies to watch. It's Google, Apple, and IBM. I love this quote by Warren Buffett. The technology is changing. Technology is changing your customer, and your customer will change your company. Governments, technology is changing your citizens, and citizens will change governments. And they will have effect on governments. You've heard the speaker from Egypt. I mean, this is very, very real today. Beautiful quote, William Gibson, the future is already here, just unevenly distributed. Right? It's here. We can do this. We don't have to wait. I'm trying to get to my thing. This is one thing about storage that I want to speak about. We all have ignored storage. I'm working with Khan Academy on the following. We all speak about cloud and everything going up in the cloud. But did you know what? Peripheral devices are becoming monumentally powerful. And we're forgetting what's happening on the edge. On the edge, we're seeing storage exploding. Did you know a 180 gig iPod can store about 16 years of music? You can hit play and it'll play 16 years of music. Right? It's astonishing, and it's not going to stop. Why? There's this law we all focused on Moore's law for so long. Every 18 months, processor speed doubles and the price halves. There's another law that we've all ignored, and that's storage. It said every 12 to 13 months, storage capacity doubles on a device, and the form factor stays the same. If this keeps continuing, my engineer said I need to subtract 1 year from every single one of these. By 2011, we'll be able to carry an entire year of video. By 2014, all commercial music ever produced will go onto a single handheld device. By 2018, we'll be able to carry an entire lifetime of video on a single handheld device. By 2019, everything that's on the internet today will go into a single handheld device. This is astonishing. So you know what we're working with Khan Academy at the moment? We're looking at what the guts look like in an HTC Desire phone. We took all the phone stuff out, made a very big storage medium inside of it, and we stored all the Khan Academy videos on top of that, all the antiretroviral administration videos, bilharzia avoidance, yellow fever avoidance videos, and we just sent out 500,000 of these things into rural areas. What would happen? Right? We should stop looking at networks connecting people only. I think there's this edge capability where huge opportunity loss resides. Okay, I don't want to speak about the size of phones because I've only got 5 minutes, but this is an interesting one. This is the latest one. India's internet users will increase 5-fold by 2015, and more than 3/4 of them will choose mobile access as the predominant form of accessing the internet. It's astonishing. Okay, this is my ask. I'm going to do this in closing. And I'm going to back it up. I wrote this down 2 o'clock this morning. And I thought, no, I'm not going to change it. I'm going to write it exactly. This is what I want. Citywide, real-time sensory blankets. I don't want Wi-Fi. I don't want broadband only. This is what I want. I want citywide, real-time sensory blankets. Not just broadband or Wi-Fi blanketing. Let's do real-time sensory blanketing. i.e., let's inject verbiage into every object of relevance in our cities. Allow our cities to speak back at us. Change our cities from beautiful mutes who observe with awe and wonder through virtual glass windows and ceilings to logistically verbose and dynamic sensory platforms, articulating beautiful message into our real-time, sensory-aware hacks of correlation. That's what I want. Okay. So before I end completely, I went on and I just copied and pasted this when I was sitting at the back. I think here's the following. This is copy and paste of my thoughts, and you're just getting it organically, and I think it's the best way. Africa can lead here. We have no legacy. Right? We're in emerging economies. Our cities are being built up. We have an opportunity right now. Infrastructure is not too big. Our policies we can fix them and we can work on them. They're not too entrenched. So ask, open ecosystems, Gov to zero. We'll start basic, inject intelligence into everything. Create meta-language definitions for our continent. I want Johannesburg, Cape Town, and Durban to get together at minimum. If we have to do the other cities and you want to participate, let's get together. But the bigger metros, let's get together and create a common code base, a common taxonomy. Right? We need to start doing this because I think there's huge innovation that's residing there. Create an app store modeling and execution. Target transit feeds. Do healthcare. Do traffic. Mobile companies. You know what I saw yesterday? Vodafone got up and did a presentation, and the Vodafone guy showed how they could see around an Apple store in London, the density of the traffic going in and out the Apple store, what device, etc. Government should force for mobile companies to expose that data to us for free. We want that data. It's us moving up and down. They should expose it. Imagine we could build stuff on top of that. We could put real-time traffic feeds at no cost. We could do sensory awareness at no cost. Let's start now. Africa has quicker wins. Africa has hackers. Last thing I want to say, I'm a hacker, and I want my city to be a platform. Thank you.